I said yes because it was supposed to be 2 weeks. My name is Isla Sullivan. I'm 31, I own a small 2-bedroom townhouse, and I work in medical billing at a paediatric clinic across town. I'm the older sister, steady, practical, the one who has a labelled bin for batteries and a standing Sunday dinner at my parents' place. My sister Chloe is 26. She's funny until responsibility shows up. Her boyfriend Ross is 27 and does delivery app gigs. They showed up with 2 duffels and a plant that drooped within a day. "It's just 2 weeks," Chloe said in my doorway back in April, hair in a messy bun, charms switched on. "Our move-in date got pushed. It's a stupid clerical thing." "It's fine," I said, because I remember what it's like to scramble. "Spare room's yours. Please keep it tidy and no late guests. I'm up at 6. "Promise," she said, already lugging a bag in. Ross smiled and said, "You're a lifesaver," like he was handing me a compliment instead of a favour. The first few days were easy enough. I slid my office chair into the corner and cleared a shelf in the hall closet. We bumped into each other in the kitchen and laughed about it. Ross swore he'd Venmo me for groceries as soon as his bank cleared. I cooked simple: eggs, rice, roasted vegetables, and they ate whatever I put on the counter. I told myself it was nice to have company again. By the end of week 1, Ross's shoes multiplied by the door like they were breeding: running shoes, work boots, slides, until my entryway looked like a consignment bin. The sink always had one bowl sitting in it, with oatmeal cementing itself to the sides. I washed it because it was there, and I like a clean sink. "You didn't have to do that," Chloe said, breezing out of the bathroom in one of my towels. She didn't reach for the bowl. Their 2-week clock hit day 14, and Chloe said, "Our landlord says Monday, so like 2 more days. Is that chill?" She didn't wait for a full answer, just kissed my cheek like we'd agreed. Monday turned into Friday. "Slow work week," Ross said, tapping his phone. "I'll get you on Saturday." Saturday came and went. I kept the thermostat where I like it and pretended not to notice the dryer going twice in a row for the same load because someone forgot to take it out. The power bill would be higher this month. I told myself it was temporary. By the end of month 1, the rhythms had shifted in ways I hadn't agreed to. I woke to the soft thud of Ross coming in at 1 a.m. and the microwave door slamming like a cymbal. My spare bathroom sprouted their products on every flat surface: an open bag of cotton pads, a hair straightener tethered to the outlet like it lived there. My fridge was full of half-empty takeout containers and a lone lime rolling in the crisper. I was buying the groceries, running the dishwasher, and padding the power bill while they slept late and blamed slow work for missed contributions. "Can you get paper towels?" Chloe texted me from my couch at 3 p.m. on a Wednesday. I was at my desk at the clinic, highlighting EOBs and sipping cold coffee. I sent a thumbs up because it was easier than typing no. We have Sunday dinner every week at my parents' place. My mum, Cecilia, cooks like feeding people is a love language and a duty. My dad, Turner, sets out the good napkins and talks about baseball. They like keeping the peace. I didn't tell them much, just, "Chloe and Ross are here for a bit." Mum said, "Good of you," the way she does, and left it at that. The first sign that a bit had turned into open-ended was a Tuesday. I came home to 3 extra voices in my living room. Chloe had invited friends, music from someone's phone, the sweet-sour smell of hard seltzer, a stack of my coasters being used as playing cards. "Hey!" Chloe sang out, tossing me a smile like it answered questions. "We're just hanging, won't be late." "It's Tuesday," I said, setting my bag down. "It's early," she said back, meaning it wasn't late yet. Ross lifted a can and said, "Want one?" like I'd been the one to invite them. I took a breath. "Quiet hours after 10, I said. "Please." "Totally," Chloe said, eyes already elsewhere. 10 came and went. At 11, I put on noise-cancelling headphones and stared at the ceiling fan in the dark. I lay there apologising in my head for wanting my house to be quiet. At midnight, laughter thinned out. At 12:30, the door finally closed. The next morning, I woke up before my alarm and stepped on a stray bottle cap in the hall. I picked it up and dropped it in the trash. My phone buzzed on the counter, face down. The notification preview showed my cousin's name, Bailey. She and I send each other memes and family updates, random questions about recipes. I wiped coffee off my thumb and opened her message. Her text changed everything. Bailey's name lit up my screen with a little preview bubble. "You seen this?" I swiped it open at my kitchen counter, spoon halfway to my mouth. It was a video from someone I didn't know, one of those circles at the top of Instagram that disappears in a day. The sound came in too loud. Chloe's face filled the frame, cheeks pink, hair perfect in the way she can make it look without trying. She was laughing at something off screen. Then she leaned in and said, clear as if she were across the table from me, "My sister's basically my free maid. I could live there forever. She never says no." There was a chorus of "no way" and fake scandalised giggles I recognised from last night. Then the clip cut to someone panning over an empty White Claw box like it was a trophy. My living room lamp showed up in the corner for a second. My lamp. Someone had filmed in my house. I watched it twice, the second time with the volume down, my thumb hovering ready to pause on her smile. It didn't look like mine. It looked like a stranger wearing my sister's face, pleased with a joke that landed exactly where she aimed it. Her voice in my living room calling me a maid. A little heat hit the back of my neck, then drained out of me so fast my fingers felt cold. Bailey had typed under the video, "Thought you should see. Are you okay?" I set my phone face down on the counter. I took the spoon out of the bowl and rinsed it clean. The pan on the stove had a rim of orange from last night's noodles and a line of sauce where it had boiled over and dried on the burner. I filled it with water and a drop of soap, watched the water turn cloudy, and started scrubbing. I washed a pan that wasn't mine, then the lid, then the spatula, stacking them upside down on the towel. Chloe's door opened down the hall and closed again. Bare feet. A whisper of voices. I didn't look up. My chest did that hot cycle again, like opening a freezer and standing in front of it, then stepping away. If I marched down the hall with my phone and threw the words in her face, we'd have a scene. She'd cry, or she'd charm, or she'd turn it into a joke. I could hear my mum already. "You know how she is." I wasn't going to give anyone the show they were expecting. I dried my hands and picked up my phone. I saved the video. I tapped the 3 dots and screen recorded a copy because the little circle at the top of the app evaporates in 24 hours and I didn't want to rely on anyone else's timing. I sent Bailey a single heart so she knew I saw it. Then I opened my laptop. Blank document. New file, untitled. I typed house rules in the header and stared at the blinking cursor. It felt a little like lining up spices with their labels facing out. Not moral judgment, just order. Rent due on the 1st, amount TBD. Utilities split, flat rate each month. No endless laundry cycles. Thermostat stays at 72 unless we talk. Quiet hours after 10 p.m, weekdays. Guests out by 10 unless I approve in advance. Clean up after yourself same day. Dishes washed and put away. Counters wiped. Trash out when full. Shared spaces are shared. No permanent storage on the bathroom counter. Shoes in the basket by the door. 2 pairs max. Chore rotation. Trash talk, recycling. Surfaces. Floors. Alternate weekly. No smoking, vaping inside. No drugs. Alcohol in moderation. Respect. No filming, recording in the house without asking. The last one surprised me as I typed it, but I left it there. I added examples in parentheses under each point, so there wasn't wiggle room to pretend confusion. What clean meant, what quiet meant, what guests out meant. I didn't make it a manifesto. I didn't write because I'm tired of being taken advantage of, or I'm not your maid. I just wrote down how a livable house works. My phone buzzed again. Bailey, call me later, and then again. Chloe, can you grab oat milk? I flipped the phone over and took a breath. I typed oat milk on my grocery list and circled it harder than it needed circling. Then I highlighted rent due on the 1st and made it bold. At the clinic, the morning moved in its usual rhythm. I keyed in CPT codes, checked dates of service, called an insurer about a denial. Lindsay leaned around my cubicle partition and slid me a granola bar with a grin. "You look like you need this," she said. "Thanks," I said, and meant it. I didn't explain anything. We had a stack of claims that needed to go out by 3. On lunch, I reopened my draft and started shaping it from a list into something you could hand someone. By living here, you agree to failure to comply may result in words that felt formal but not cruel. I added a line at the top, effective immediately. I left the amounts blank because I didn't want to guess and then change it later. Numbers need to be right when you say them out loud. In the afternoon, Chloe sent a selfie from my couch with my throw blanket bunched under her chin and the caption to me only, "We love you." A sticker heart covered the corner of her smile. I didn't answer. I went home on time, let myself in, and found the plant they'd brought slumped lower in its pot, leaves dull. I watered it. I took out the trash. I taped a note to the fridge that said, "House talk tonight at 7. At 6:59, I took the note down and folded it into the recycling bin. Not yet. Not like this. If I was going to do this, I was going to do it right, once, clean. No yelling in my own kitchen. No he said she said later. I closed my laptop and slid it into my bag. I put the saved video in a folder named House. Then I opened a fresh document and titled it something else entirely. Lease. I didn't bring it up that night. I made pasta, loaded the dishwasher, and let the steam fog my glasses so no one would see me thinking. When they drifted to the spare room, I opened my laptop again and started over, not with house rules, but with something that mattered if someone rolled their eyes at it. I Googled month-to-month room rental, our state, and clicked through tenant law pages until the language stopped feeling like a foreign country. 30 days notice to terminate. Owner-occupied exemptions. What goes in a lease for a room? Rent amount, due date, utilities, house rules, deposit, entry rights, guest policy. I copied a template and stripped out the parts that didn't fit a 2-bedroom townhouse with an owner on site. Numbers needed to be real, not guesses. I pulled up the listings for rooms near me. Most wanted between $700 and $900. I settled on $750 rent, due on the 1st, with a 5-day grace period and a $25 late fee after that. Utilities, $100 flat to cover water, electric, internet, trash. Deposit, $300, due on signing, refundable minus damages. I put those in bold on page 1. House rules went under a clean heading. Standards for shared living. No essaying. Bullets with examples. Quiet hours 10 p.m, 7 a.m, Sunday, Thursday. Guests out by 10, unless approved 24 hours ahead. Example, hangouts end by 10. No new arrivals after 9. Clean up same day. Dishes washed and put away. Counters, hot sink wiped. Stove under burners wiped if spills. Example, no bowls soaking overnight, no dried sauce on burners. Bathroom, no storage on counters, hang towels, wipe sink pot hair after use. Laundry, 1 load at a time, remove when done, no rerunning to fluff. Shoes in the basket by the door, max 2 pairs each. No smoking, vaping or drugs inside, alcohol in moderation. No filming, recording inside without permission from everyone present. I added a chore rotation. Week A, trash, recycling and surfaces. Week B, floors and bathrooms, alternating on Sundays. I included a small box to initial acknowledging received keys, front door, mailbox. Not scolding, just a system. Then I opened a fresh spreadsheet and started a tab called House Expenses Covered. Date, item, amount, note. Groceries I'd paid since April. The the power bill bump after the dryer marathons and midnight microwaving. Paper towels, 4 packs, because a roll disappeared in a day when 3 people pretended it was napkins, placemats and a sponge. The broken lamp base I'd taped last week, Ross had knocked it over during a late-night story that required grand arm gestures. He'd said, "My bad," and held the shade back on like that fixed gravity. I taped the base and wrote "replace later" in my head. Now I gave it a line with a question mark for cost. The plant they brought drooped farther. I watered that too, then sat back down. My coffee went cold twice. I kept going. It was Thursday. Sunday dinner was already on, but I texted my mum anyway. "What can I bring?" She answered fast because she always does. "Just yourself. Maybe some bread if you want." Heart emoji. I typed, "I'll grab bread. See you around 5. I printed 2 copies of the lease and the house rules addendum. The printer chugged and spit them out in neat stacks that made my chest loosen a little. I slid them into a manila folder with a pen clipped on. On top, I tucked a sheet that said, "Sign by Tuesday 6 p.m, in a simple font, no underline. I put the saved video on my desktop in a folder named House and made sure the sound worked. Friday morning, I moved like normal. Work, granola bar from Lindsay, codes and calls. During lunch, I called the post office and asked about certified mail, return receipt. The clerk explained the green card and how it comes back signed. I wrote it down on a sticky note and stuck it to the inside of the folder. Do it right the first time. At home that night, Ross had his shoes in a line so wide I had to step over them to get in. "Sup," he said, eyes on his phone. Chloe was on my couch with a towel wrapped around wet hair scrolling. "Sunday dinner at Mum's," I said. "You both coming?" "Duh," Chloe said, smiling up at me. "Mum's lasagna, wouldn't miss it." "Bring bread," Ross said, like he was helping. "I've got bread," I said, "and something to go over after we eat." Chloe's eyes flicked up. "Like what?" "House stuff," I said. "It'll take 10 minutes. She made a face that would have been funny if I didn't know it. "Can we not do this, Is? We're leaving soon anyway." "Sunday," I repeated, 10 minutes. She shrugged and went back to her phone. "Sure, 10. Saturday I cleaned the kitchen like I do before I leave a space where I'll have to say hard things. Counters wiped, sink empty, the good dish towel out. I tucked the manila folder in my tote with the bread and my charger. I rehearsed in my head while vacuum lines stitched neat rows into the rug. "I love you. I need my home back. This is the path forward." It sounded stiff at first, like something off a website. I kept smoothing it until the words felt like mine and not an apology. That night, I lay in bed and watched the light from my phone clock move across the wall. From the hall, a whisper of laughter, then quiet. I put my hand on my chest and measured my breath with the rise and fall. Sunday was coming. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to hand over the paper and let it say what I needed it to say. Sunday smelled like garlic and butter. I tucked the bread under my arm, the manila folder in my tote, and rang the bell with my elbow. Mum called, "Come in," before I finished turning the knob. "Bread hero," Dad said, taking the bag and kissing my cheek. He had the game muted on the living room TV, scores crawling across the bottom like ants. Chloe and Ross came in behind me with a bottle of red someone had half-wrapped in tissue. "We brought wine," Chloe announced, already reaching for a glass. "Is this spaghetti?" "Spaghetti," Mum said, stirring the pot, "and a salad because I don't want to hear about scurvy." Ross grinned. "I was betting lasagna," he said to me, like we had a secret. I set the bread down and slid my tote into the corner by the hutch. My folder knocked lightly against the wood. I felt the weight of it like a hand on my shoulder and let the feeling sit. We ate, we passed Parmesan, we listened to Dad tell a story about the neighbours' new tomato cages. Chloe was good at this. The easy jokes, the "Mum, this is so good," the quick laugh when Ross said something that didn't land. I answered questions about the clinic and nodded when Mom asked if I'd seen the new paediatrician's dog on Facebook. Normal, normal, normal. I chewed, swallowed, sipped water and waited for plates to empty. When they did, I stood up and stacked them. "Leave it," Mum said, but I carried them to the sink anyway and came back with the folder instead. I laid out the copies of the lease like placemats, one in front of Chloe, one in front of Ross. Dad's hands went still on his napkin. Mum's smile didn't move, but her eyes did. "What's this?" Chloe asked, a little laugh already warmed up. I set my phone on the table, screen black. "This is a month-to-month lease for the room," I said. "Rent is $750 due on the 1st, utilities $100 flat, $300 deposit on signing. House rules are attached. If you sign by Tuesday at 6, we're good. If not, I'll send a 30-day notice." Chloe blinked like I'd switched languages. "Are you serious right now?" "Yes," I said. I tapped my phone and pulled up the video. "And I want to play something first." "Isla," Mum said softly, like she was stepping between kids. "Dinner table?" "It's the only table we all sit at," I said. I pressed play. Chloe's face filled the screen, laughing, leaning in, the line I knew by heart after 2 watches. "My sister's basically my free maid. I could live there forever. She never says no." Laughter, the empty white claw box, my lamp in the corner. The clip ended, and the table sounded loud with how quiet it was. Mum's jaw tightened in a way I'd only seen a handful of times. Dad looked down and folded his napkin in half, then in half again. Ross shifted in his chair and tried on a smile that didn't fit. "Come on, it was a joke," he said. "People say dumb stuff on stories." Chloe's cheeks went high red. "Who even sent you that? Bailey? God, she's such a—" "Don't," I said, and my voice stayed level. "This isn't about Bailey. This is about my house." Chloe pushed back her chair an inch, then set it down. "We told you we're leaving soon." "It's been 3 months," I said. "I offered help for 2 weeks. I need my home back. This is the path forward. You sign this by Tuesday at 6, or I'll mail a 30-day notice. No hard feelings." "No hard feelings?" Chloe's laugh was all edges now. "You play a video of me at Mum's table and drop a contract like you're my landlord." "I am your landlord," I said, calm. "Right now, without paperwork, this makes it clear." Mum touched my forearm, fingers light. "Do you really want to make this a thing?" "It already is," I said, and didn't pull my arm away or lean in. I just left my hand there on the table next to the paper with my name at the top. Ross glanced at the lease like it might bite him. "We can talk about it," he said, voice sliding into friendly. "We'll figure something out that works for everyone." "This works for me," I said. "If it doesn't work for you, I understand. Sign by Tuesday or I'll send notice on Wednesday." Dad cleared his throat like a chair leg catching on tile. "Maybe we all take a minute," he offered to the napkin in his hands. Chloe stood up so fast her chair tipped and knocked against the floor. The sound made the dog next door bark like it had been waiting. "I'm not doing this," she said. Eyes shiny, anger and humiliation layered so thick I could see both. "I'm not." "Chloe," Mum said, warning and worry all at once. Chloe grabbed her bag and left. The front door opened and shut with the kind of careful slam that says I'm not slamming, but you heard that, didn't you? Ross sat there for a beat, then stood too, hands up like he was not part of this, not responsible for the chair still askew. "I'll talk to her," he said to the room, then followed. Silence stretched. The sauce pot ticked as it cooled. "I'm not trying to embarrass her," I said finally. "I'm trying to not resent my sister in my own house." Mum's hand was still on my arm, and she squeezed once, then let go. "I hear you," she said, voice tight. This is a lot." "I kept it small," I said. "Paper and dates." Dad set his napkin down in a neat square. "Let me walk you out," he said, "because that's what he can offer." In the driveway, the air smelled like cut grass. Dad hugged me and didn't say anything about sides. Mum hugged me and said, "Please be patient," into my hair, and then, quieter, "I know you've been." I drove home with my tote on the passenger seat, the leases sliding a little with each turn. At a red light, my phone buzzed. I didn't check it until I parked and turned the key off. One text from Chloe, a single word. Wow. Monday was quiet in the way a room gets when people are avoiding eye contact. I left for the clinic early and came home to the TV murmuring and a stack of bowls in the sink like they were nesting. No one said the word lease. Chloe's bedroom door stayed closed. Ross slipped past me in the hall with a hey that slid off the floor. I made an omelette, ate it standing up, and set a timer to remind myself, Tuesday, 6 p.m. Tuesday morning, my phone lit up at 9:12. Mum, be patient. 9:14. You know how she is. 9:20. We're family. I typed and erased 3 drafts before sending, I love you. The deadline is 6. At lunch, Lindsay handed me half her chips across the divider. You look like you're doing math in your head, she said. Deadlines, I said, and smiled because I didn't have an appetite for the story. At 5:58, I sat at my kitchen table with the 2 copies of the lease and a pen. The clock on my microwave jumped to 6 with its soft digital blink. Nothing. No footsteps, no, hey, let's talk. My phone lit with Mum again. Maybe just give her a week. I set the phone face down on the lease and took a breath that felt like I'd been holding it all day. I opened my laptop and typed out the notice clean and formal. Notice to terminate month-to-month tenancy. Names spelled right, address, the date, effective move-out date 30 days from receipt. I printed 2, signed them both, and slid them into envelopes addressed to Chloe and Ross. I put them with the folder in my tote and added a sticky note, certified return receipt. Wednesday at lunch, I drove to the post office. The line moved slow under fluorescent lights that made everyone's face look a little drawn. Next, the clerk said, and I stepped up with my envelopes and my sticky note like a kid who'd studied. I need these sent certified mail with return receipt, I said. My hands were steady until he handed me the green cards and told me where to write. The pen caught on the glossy surface and the lines looked a little shaky. I pressed harder. Green card comes back to you after they sign, he said, stamping without looking up. Thunk, thunk. I slid my debit card and tucked both receipts into the manila folder as if they were fragile. In the car, I snapped a photo of the tracking numbers and texted Chloe and Ross together. Notice sent today by certified mail. Move-out date is 30 days from receipt. No reply. That night, the petties started showing up like little flags. The shoes by the door swelled until the entryway was a line of rubber and laces you had to navigate like a maze. I took a photo with the timestamp turned on. The trash can filled to a soft peak and then stayed that way, lid open like a mouth. I took a photo of that too and took the bag out because I couldn't stand the smell. Friday, 2 of Chloe's friends showed up after 10, voices bright and edged with seltzer. I stepped into the hall with my phone in my hand and said, quiet hours after 10. We're just leaving, Chloe sang from the couch, which is what she said at 10:02 and again at 10:31. At 10:43, I texted her from the bedroom. Guests out by 10 means out by 10. Please have them leave now. The front door opened and closed twice. The last laugh sounded like an apology and a dare together. I logged it in my spreadsheet. Date, time, guests past quiet hours. No commentary. I slid the green receipt stubs into a clear sleeve in the folder next to the leases. I printed the USPS tracking page and circled delivered when the updates landed, then taped the return receipts inside the folder when they came back a few days later with signatures I knew by the loop and the scratch. When I came home one night, Ross was in the kitchen making a sandwich like the counter was his cutting board. He looked at the folder on the table and then at me. We'll see if your paper means anything, he muttered, knife tapping the jar. It already does, I said, and put the folder back in the cabinet with my cookbooks. He rolled his eyes at his mustard and didn't say anything else. Day 8, the dryer ran twice for the same load. I wrote rerun dryer load in the log and added the date. Day 10, I found a new chip in the edge of the coffee table and took a close-up photo with a quarter next to it for scale, a trick I stole from a claims adjuster video. Day 12, Mum texted, "Can we all just sit down together?" I replied, "Everything is in writing." She sent a sigh emoji that looked like a cloud. On day 15, Dad called. He doesn't call in the middle of the day unless it's weather or something with the car. "Hey kiddo," he said, "got a minute?" "I do," I said, and stepped into an empty conference room so I didn't have to talk over printers. He cleared his throat. "Any wiggle room on that date?" "Your mother thinks maybe—" "The date is the date," I said, keeping my voice even. "I'm not moving it." "Okay," he said, not disappointed so much as absorbing it. "Okay, you need anything?" "I'm fine," I said. "Thanks for calling." Back at my desk, I added a line to the log. Day 15. Dad called wiggle room, reiterated date. It felt absurd to document that, but it kept me straight. Paper, dates, receipts. When I got home, the plant drooped again. I watered it without expecting it to perk up. The house felt both crowded and empty, people in it but no acknowledgement. I took out the trash again, wiped the counter, and put the folder back on the shelf. The clock kept moving. 30 days is a long time when you're counting, but every page in the folder made it feel shorter. Day 31 started with a text at 9:12 a.m. from Ross. "We'll be out by afternoon." I stared at it in the clinic break room with my coffee and granola bar and replied, "Leave keys on the kitchen counter. Send a photo when you're done." No answer. I went back to EOBs and denials, the steady work that never argues back. At lunch, I drove home to grab a package. The entry was clear for once, no shoe maze, just my basket by the door, empty. Their door was open. The bed I'd loaned them was stripped to the mattress pad. A roll of tape sat on the dresser like a period. No keys on the counter yet. I locked up and went back to the clinic. At 3:47, a photo pinged, my kitchen counter with 2 keys and the mailbox key fanned out like cards. No text, just the picture. I finished my last call, shut down my computer, and drove home with the kind of even breathing I do before blood draws. It hit me when I opened the front door, the quiet you don't notice until it returns. No TV murmuring, no clatter from the bathroom, no low conversation through the wall. Just the hum of the fridge and the faint buzz of the hallway light. I walked through like it was a model home and mine at the same time. The living room had a new stain right where the rug met the coffee table. A pink ring with a comet tail, seltzer or something worse, set in like it had shook hands with the fibres. The lamp by the couch, the one I'd taped after Ross's story with his arms, was done for. The base had split beyond the tape, the shade dented in one spot like a thumb had pressed too hard. In the kitchen, a blender-shaped hole sat on the counter, and an empty blender box was tucked into the recycling with the top half folded neatly, like they'd been thoughtful about their trash. I bought that blender last year after my old one sputtered out. I could see the charge in my bank app without even scrolling far. The refrigerator was clean in the way that says we ate everything we wanted and left what we didn't. A crusted jar of salsa sat in the door, rings of orange around the rim. I took a photo of that too, because complete tells a better story. I stood there for a full minute and listened to nothing. Then I got my folder. I turned on the kitchen light to cool white and started with wide shots, room by room, then close-ups, the rug staying with a quarter for scale. The lamp base from 3 angles, tape frayed, crack visible, the counter where the blender should be, the empty spot obvious next to the coffee maker, the keys splayed on the counter. I took that photo first because surrender matters. I pulled up my spreadsheet and added a tab, move out damages. line items, estimated cost, link or receipt. Rug, $240, screenshot of the exact model from the store site where I'd bought it, same pattern because I didn't want a reminder every night. Lamp, $110 for a near match, link attached. Blender, $220, screenshot of my original order confirmation from last year and a current listing. Cleaning, spot remover, rental upholstery cleaner, $50, receipt to follow. Subtotal, $620, deposit received, $0, total due, $620. I printed the spreadsheet and slid it into a sleeve behind the green certified mail cards. Then I sat down at my laptop and drafted a short message to both Chloe and Ross, itemised damages and replacements attached. Total due, $620. Please remit within 10 days to avoid small claims filing. Payment options, cheque, Zelle or cash. This is separate from rent, jot utilities, which were offered via lease and declined. Keys received 3:47 p.m. today. I attached the PDF and hit send. The dots appeared from Chloe, then vanished. 10 minutes later, Ross replied, "That lamp was already broken. Also, that rug stain was there. And we don't have your blender." I took a breath. I replied with 3 photos, no commentary, the lamp with fresh split beyond the tape, the rug on move-in day, clean with vacuum lines, the counter last week with the blender in the frame. Then I added the order confirmation for the blender with the date and my name. No response. I opened the county court website and clicked File a Small Claim. The form asked for my name, their names, the address, the amount, the reason. I wrote, "Replacement costs for damaged property, rug, lamp, and missing kitchen appliance. Tenants at will vacated on notice. Evidence attached." I uploaded the spreadsheet in a single PDF with the photos, the green cards, and the video file screenshot showing Chloe's free Maid line for context. I paid the filing fee with my card and selected service by sheriff because certified mail had already done its job once and I didn't want a second round of "didn't get it." A case number popped up. I wrote it on a sticky note and pressed it to the folder's inside cover. I emailed myself a copy of everything because I've seen too many claims lost to one dead hard drive at work. It was early evening when I finally moved. I took the salsa out of the fridge and twisted the lid. It didn't budge. I ran it under hot water and tried again. The seal gave with a pop. I tossed the jar and took the trash out. On my way back in, I locked the deadbolt and listened to it catch. I vacuumed around the stain because the vacuum lines still calm me, even with a problem in the middle. I put the bent lamp by the front door to haul downstairs. The plant they'd brought sat on the windowsill, leaves drooped into themselves. I watered it anyway. Before bed, I texted my mum. They're out. Going to small claims for damages. I love you. She replied with a heart and then, a minute later, "Okay, proud of you." I set the folder on my desk, ready for the next step, and turned off the lights. The house held its quiet like a cup. 3 weeks after they left, I took a morning off work and sat on a plastic chair under fluorescent lights that made everyone look a little washed out. The courtroom smelled like dust and coffee. A bailiff read through the docket in a low voice and reminded us to keep phones silent. I kept my folder on my lap, tabs sticking out like teeth. Lease offer, notice, photos, receipts, spreadsheet. Chloe slid into the row across from me 5 minutes late, sunglasses perched in her hair like a headband. Ross trailed behind her and stared at the floor tiles. Neither of them looked at me. When our case was called, we stood at 2 small tables. The judge looked like someone who'd already seen every version of this story. "Miss Sullivan, you're the plaintiff," she said to me. "Tell me what you're asking for." $620, I said, my voice thinner than I wanted. "Replacement costs for a rug and lamp damaged while they lived in my home, and a blender that was missing when they moved out. I'm also requesting court costs." "Start at the beginning," she said, briefly. I breathed once. In April, I let my sister and her boyfriend stay in my spare room for 2 weeks. They stayed 3 months. I offered a month-to-month lease with rent, utilities and house rules. They declined to sign. I sent a 30-day notice by certified mail. I have the receipts and signatures. I slid the green cards forward and the judge glanced at them, then to the screenshots of the tracking page. On move out, I found a stained rug, a broken lamp beyond repair, and the blender missing. I documented with photos here, and I have receipts and links for replacement costs. I put the photo sheet on top, wide shot of the living room with the pink ring near the table, then the close-up with the quarter for scale. The lamp with the fresh split beyond my old tape job, the counter with the blender in frame last week, the empty spot after, my spreadsheet with the totals, the original blender order confirmation with my name and date. Chloe leaned forward. "That lamp was already broken," she said, fast, "and the rug had that stain when we moved in. She's just mad because of other stuff." Ross kept his eyes on the table and didn't add anything. The judge held up a hand, and Chloe's words flattened into the air between us. "You'll have a turn," she said. Then to me, "Anything else?" "One more thing for context." I kept my voice even. A video from their friends gathering in my living room. It goes to the nature of the arrangement and why I formalised expectations. I didn't look at Chloe. I set my phone face down and then flipped it over, the clip already cued. The judge watched, face unreadable, as Chloe's on-screen voice laughed and used the phrase that had become a splinter in my chest. "My sister's basically my free maid. I could live there forever. She never says no." The judge nodded once and handed my phone back. "The video isn't about damages," she said. "But I understand the background." Chloe jumped in. "I was joking. Everyone jokes on stories," she said, talking fast, words overlapping. She kept saying yes. We didn't sign because we were leaving, and that blender was not there when we packed. She hides stuff so she can— "Stop." The judge didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. "Did you live in the plaintiff's home as tenants at will?" Chloe's mouth opened and closed. "We stayed with my sister," she said finally. "Did you receive a 30-day notice?" Ross spoke for the first time, voice low. "We signed for something, yeah." "Did you leave the home in substantially the same condition as when you arrived?" "We cleaned," Chloe said. "Mostly. The rug was already—" The judge looked down at the photos again, then at me. "The plaintiff has provided dated photos from move-in and move-out, receipts and credible documentation," she said. "The defendants have not provided contrary evidence." My hands were flat on the table. They had been shaking when I started. They weren't shaking now. "I don't want a fight," I said, mostly to the table. "I want my costs covered." "Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $620, the judge said, "plus court costs." She wrote for a minute, pen scratching, then looked up. "You'll receive written notice of the judgment. If payment isn't made, there are collection options available to you." The gavel's light tap was more final than it sounded. Outside the courtroom, the hall smelled like hand sanitizer and old upholstery. I put my folder back in my tote and zipped it. Chloe turned toward me, one hand on her hip like we were teenagers in our parents' driveway again. "You're not my maid anymore," she said, words edged like a dare. "I never was," I said. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't wait for a reply. I walked toward the elevator, breathing like I'd managed a good mile without stopping, steady in, steady out, a rhythm my body could keep. In the parking lot, my phone buzzed. "Mum, how did it go?" I typed. "Judge awarded me $620 plus costs." It was calm. "Love you." She sent back 3 hearts and then, a minute later, "Proud of you." I sat in my car for a moment with my hands on the wheel and the sun warming the dashboard. Across the lot, Ross leaned against a pillar, scrolling. Chloe flicked her sunglasses down and said something I couldn't hear. I turned the key, pulled out, and didn't look back in the rear view longer than I needed to. The road home was short. The house would be quiet. The stain was still there, and the lamp still bent, but the judgment had a weight to it that felt like something settled. Paper, dates, receipts, and now a ruling. 2 weeks after court, I slid a fresh lease across my kitchen table. Lindsay read it line by line, tracing the bold numbers with her finger. Rent $750, utilities $100, deposit $300, she said. Quiet hours after 10 got it. Guests out by 10 unless you say otherwise. She smiled. This is the first time I've been relieved to see a lease. Same, I said, and handed her a pen. We initialed the chore rotation, week A and week B, and the key receipt. She pulled her phone out and set up auto-pay while we were still sitting there. The little confirmation ding sounded like someone had put a lid on a pot exactly right. I'm bringing just a bed and a dresser, she said. I'll wipe the counters I touch and text before anyone visits. I know the drill. Your sister's welcome Saturday for an hour, I said. Text me the time. It felt good to say yes to something small on purpose. That night we did a walk through the way I wish I'd done from the start. Rugs new, I said, vacuum lines still neat. Lamp matches the old one. I tilted it to show the base was solid, no tape. Blender lives here, I tapped the counter. Please don't move it. Noted, she said, and I promise I'm not a 1 a.m. smoothie person. When she moved in that weekend, she wiped the inside of the fridge after putting away her groceries without me asking. She texted me at 4:58 on Saturday. Is 5 still good for my sister? We'll bring cupcakes. They came at 5 on the dot and left at 5:57 with the last of the frosting wiped off the counter. The house settled into a rhythm that felt like exhaling. I'd hear Lindsay's door in the morning when I was pulling on my clinic sweatshirt. I'd come home to the dishwasher humming with exactly 1 cycle and a sticky note on the counter that said, "Ran out of paper towels, I'll grab some." The autopay hit the first of the month at 8:01 a.m. and my bank app pinged before my coffee finished brewing. On a Tuesday, a plain white envelope showed up in my mailbox with my name written in Chloe's looping script. Inside was a money order for $400 and a short note, "For court thing." The second envelope came a week later with $220 and a folded receipt for a money order fee. No apology, no explanation, just the numbers. I took photos of both and added them to the folder, clipping the court's judgment on top. When the clerk mailed the stamped satisfied notice, I slid that in too. The stack of paper was a clean weight I could file and forget. Mum's texts shifted. Less, be patient, more pictures of her garden, 2 peppers, a tomato that split in the heat. Dad called one evening and talked about the neighbours' tomato cages again, and how he'd probably copied them wrong, but the plants were standing. "House good?" he asked. "Good," I said. "Quiet?" He hummed, pleased. "I like quiet," he said. "Your mum says we're boring in the best way." Bailey popped by the clinic on her lunch break one day with iced coffees and a smirk. "You mad at me?" she asked, mock dramatic, and then hugged me before I could answer. "Proud of you." "Thank you," I said, and meant it. We didn't dissect anything. We just stood at the curb with our cups sweating and talked about the fair coming up and which vendor had the good lemonade. Chloe and Ross landed in a sublet across town. I know because Mum slipped and said, "It's small but they'll manage." And because the money orders had return addresses printed with an apartment number I didn't recognise. They haven't reached out beyond those 2 envelopes. I didn't chase them. I kept my door a boundary and not a revolving one. On Lindsay's first rent day, she handed me a little plant in a terracotta pot. "Housewarming," she said. "It's hard to kill." We put it on the windowsill next to the drooped one that never recovered. I didn't throw the dead plant away right then. I waited until Saturday, took it out of the pot and emptied the soil into the yard. I washed the pot and set it upside down to dry. Then I tossed the old leaves in the trash and took the bag out. At the clinic, I still keyed in codes and called insurers, but I sat straighter. Work felt like work, not like the place I caught my breath before going home. The girls at the front desk started a text chain about a potluck. I volunteered to bring bread and a salad without feeling like I was choosing between nice and no. On a Sunday, I went to my parents' house with a loaf of bread under my arm and nothing in my tote but a charger. The game was on, muted. Mum's lasagna smelled like the inside of a memory. We ate and talked about cutworms and whether Dad should give up on basil. No one said anyone's name like a problem we were trying to solve. That night back at my place, I rinsed 2 plates, wiped the counter, and turned off the kitchen light. Lindsay's door clicked shut at 10. I locked the front door and listened to the bolt slide home. It didn't sound like a barricade. It sounded like a decision I made for myself. I still love my sister. I love my peace more. The difference now is I act like both are true.